Hey guys, it's your boy Tacho here, and we are back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes. Now today we got the Resplendent copy of Roy, so for all of you FEH Pass owners out there, then rejoice because this is actually a pretty solid free unit for us to get, and the Resplendent BST bonus is actually going to do your boy pretty good justice, so let's just get right into these builds and talk about him. So for starters, his weapon is the Binding Blade, and I mean, wow, this was a really bad weapon even back then in day one. All it does is give you defense and res +2 if the foes are initiating combat. So, I mean, compared to all the other day one weapons, that's not like completely terrible because there were still some pretty bad perfs day one, but comparing it to the actual Binding Blade in the GBA game is such a disservice. That was arguably the best sword in the entire franchise, because, I mean, it had the exact same might as Ragnall did. It gave you +5 defense and res, as opposed to just +5 defense like Ragnall. It had a better hit rate than Ragnall. It had the distant counter effect. It had crit chance, and you could even use it as an elixir for the turn, so I mean, the OG Binding Blade in the actual Fire Emblem games was super stacked and one of my favorite swords ever. Also, the animations on that sword are so rad, and the GBA animations in Fire Emblem are, of course, just so clean. So, I mean, check out some of Roy's animations with the Binding Blade if you want to see something pretty cool. But anyway, Binding Blade did not get a lot of justice in Heroes up until the Refine, where I think it is a little closer in line with what it was in the series. He also has Shove as the assist, and he's got Triangle Adept 3 and Seal Defense 3. So T-Adept 3 was pretty good day one, and it held up for quite some time up until, I'm not exactly sure when it actually started falling off. I guess it was when the units just started getting such crazy stats that you didn't really want to run T-Adept anymore, because in the bad matchups, it really stung to have that. But maybe in the future, when we get T-Adept 4, we can see a pretty cool comeback for this skill. I would totally be down for that. And Seal Defense, you're probably just going to want to drop that, so don't worry too much about Seal Defense on him. Now, like all these other Day 1 units, his base kit, for the most part, is just completely replaceable, but luckily, he does have the stat distribution where he needs it, and Binding Blade's Refine is definitely going to do this guy a lot of favors. Okay, so recommended IVs for Resplendent Roy, I gotta say go for plus defense. It's a super boon on him, and he has only 25 defense while he's got 28 res, so if you take the super boon in defense, then you can just get both of his defenses up above 30 without too much investment, so I think that's probably going to be the way to go. Binding Blade with its Refine is super biased towards the enemy phase, so you do want to focus a little bit more on this guy's defense and res. And unfortunately, his attack and speed are pretty bad. Like, he only had 31 speed before the Resplendent bonus, and now he's sitting on 33 speed. While his attack was only 30, and that was before he even had effective damage from his weapons. So, poor Roy had a pitiful attack and speed combo, but you don't have to worry about that too much anymore. I mean, you could actually go for plus speed. It wouldn't be too shabby on him, because, of course, Repel and Close Call are a thing. So if you did want to go for those options, then plus speed may not be too bad, but I will stick to my guns and say you probably want to go for plus defense. Okay, so for our budget build on Resplendent Roy, we are of course going to be running the refined Binding Blade. So what it does is it's going to grant him the quick repost effect as long as he is above or equal to half HP. So that's of course already better than quick repost 3, which only goes down to 70%. Also, it gives him a bracing stance effect, where he's getting +4 defense and res if the foes are initiating combat on him. And just to throw in some added damage for this guy, it has effective against dragons, which he's really going to appreciate since his attack stat is so low. So this guy only has 48 attack with the weapon equipped and with the Resplendent bonus, so he's going to be hitting like a tiny feather, pretty much. So that effective damage is really going to come in handy for him. Now, we're going to be running Close Defense 3 in the A slot and the Sacred Seal slot. I really feel like the A slot this guy wants to have is Distant Counter, so he can really make full use of the bait style Refine his weapon got. But because Distant Counter is not a budget option, we're going to have to go for the next best thing. And Close Defense isn't really all that budget either. You get it from Joshua, and he still has to be a 5-star, so it does still take a bit of investment. The other option here would just be Fury 3, or I guess Bracing Stance 2 also, from Grand Hero Battle Conrad, or God forbid you want to sacrifice your Flame Emperor into this guy, but I guess those could also be options. But Close Defense with the +6 defense and res against any melee type opponent is really going to work wonders on him. And because we've doubled up on it and he has Bracing Stance built into his weapon, he's basically getting +16 to defense and res anytime melee type foes initiate on him. So pretty solid stuff there. We've got Guard in the B slot, so we can stop the foes from ramping into special attacks, and Attack Smoke, so we can just debuff the foes within 2 spaces after combat. Now, the B slot is probably the most flexible option on this guy. You're free to run a whole bunch of different skills. Dull Close could be one option, so you can negate the foe's bonuses if they are a melee type. Renewal actually is pretty cool too on this guy, so you can just get some free heals and help him maintain the quick repost effect. Swordbreaker is also pretty good, and these are another type of skills just like T-Adept that really could use the level 4 upgrade. Any of these breaker skills with a level 4 upgrade would be pretty rad. So Swordbreaker in particular is probably the best breaker just because all the sword units tend to be lightning fast, and just stopping them from getting their double attack and allowing Roy another double attack could really come in handy. And finally, if you wanted him to just be a more support style unit, you could go for one of the chill skills. Probably Chill Attack, so he can also debuff the strongest foe and help his own self out when he is baiting the foes. So overall, not too shabby for a melee focus build. And for the high investment build, I thought we might as well just go all in with this guy and show off your boy in all his glory. So we're going to be taking a look at him with +10 merges and the +10 flowers. So with the max investment, he's sitting on 55 health, 54 attack, 39 speed, 37 defense, and 36 res, and that is with the plus defense IVs. Now 39 speed, if you were to go plus speed, that would bump him up to 42. And at that point, Repel and Close Call would actually start looking pretty solid. So just another option if you wanted to invest a little bit on his speed. But once again, I do think I like defense a little bit more. And with the Bracing Stance effect from his weapon, that pushes both of his defenses above 40. So he's going to be just fantastic on the enemy phase. And we are going to be running Distant Counter like your boy really wants to have, so he can just pull off the Binding Blade just like it used to be in the original games. We're going for Lull, Attack, and Defense in the B slot. These Lull skills are just so stacked, and they are pretty much the go-to for any infantry or horse unit that you want to build up. Lull, Attack, and Defense is going to stop the foes from doing too much damage by negating their active blue buffs on attack, as well as inflicting -3 to that. And it's also going to help him deal some more damage because, like we said before, his attack stat isn't really the best. And he's very reliant on the effective damage that he gets from Binding Blade to really dish out some pain. So Lull, Attack, and Defense is going to help him out in both fronts for baiting and hurting the foes. And we've got Pulse Smoke as well in the C slot, so we can just have a better matchup against infantry pulse setups. And for the Seal slot, we are going to run Mirror Stance 2, just so he can gain a little bit extra res and attack. So pretty solid stuff. But of course, he has a whole bunch of options you could go for. Lull, Attack, and Speed could also work out in the B slot if you wanted to hamper the foe's speed and give them less of a chance of double attacking Roy. Since, like we said, 39 speed is actually not too shabby. We also have Null Sea Disrupt as an option if you want him to counterattack any Fire Sweep or Dazzling Staff type opponents. And his HP at 55 isn't too bad, and you could go for Sudden Panic in the B slot if you wanted. If you decided to go for that, then I would recommend the Summoner support on Roy, so he can just gain +5 HP, and 60 HP with Sudden Panic is definitely going to proc quite often. And finally, for the C slot, you could also sub in Times Pulse if you wanted, and now Times Pulse actually has a pretty cool application on him if you're going to run Aether as the special, because that way you could just support him with Brave Lucina, and at the start of turn 1, Times Pulse is going to do -1 cooldown, since Aether should be at the full 5-hit charge. And from there, you just put Roy in the way to bait some foes, and have Lucina just 2 spaces away. And the foes are going to come in to attack Roy, The first attack is going to bring him down to -2 special charge from Lucina's Breath effect. And then he's going to counterattack the foes twice since he's got built-in quick riposte on the weapon. And the second hit that he does is going to be an Aether. So he's capable of actually ramping into Aether in one round of combat like that. So Time's Pulse could be pretty clutch. And of course, Joint Drive skills, as always, are going to be fantastic. You could either go for Joint Drive attack or Joint Drive speed. And Joint Drive speed actually comes into its own if you do decide to go for plus speed and run Repel or Close Call on this guy. So a pretty solid unit, and Roy definitely deserved to get the Resplendent alt. I wasn't really the biggest fan of his original artwork, even though we have, of course, had way wonkier arts in the game. But I do like the Niffle art style that they went with for Resplendent Roy. And it looks like the next Resplendent hero we're going to be getting is going to be Lindy, so that actually caught me off guard. I did not expect Lindy would get the next Resplendent alt, mainly because her original artwork was one of the better ones for sure, especially from day one. I didn't think she needed an art update at all, and I guess the only downside you could say about the old art for her was that her eyes were a little bit too big, but I mean, that's just typical anime art style, right? So I didn't think Lindy needed to get the artwork fixed. But the new artwork we got for her is actually pretty cute too, so I'm not opposed to it per se. I just think units like Gwendolyn and Rebecca and so on that really could use the art fix. I was just hoping for one of them to get it. So Resplendent Lindy is also a 5-star locked unit, so we have gone back on track with the pattern where we're getting a free-to-play merge option and then a 5-star exclusive. So it's nice to see them going back on track with that. The more free-to-play options we get from the Resplendent heroes, the better. So that's going to wrap us up for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed the builds for Resplendent Roy. And as always, this is your boy Tacho signing out. So take care, and I'll catch you all again in the next one.